going to turn our attention toward this 2003 Mercury Marauder with 107,000 miles. I've owned the car for 10 years. I gave it to my daughter. She just turned 16, so she's going to learn how to drive on it. I don't think she's going to keep it when she gets her license. She works, saves her money, so she wants to buy a Mustang when she gets her actual license. So I'll probably get the car back. It's in great shape. It's got a dent in the quarter, some parking lot rash on all four corners. Other than that, the paint's only 8 years old. The car looks great when it's cleaned up. I've recently had to drive it in the crappy weather, so that's why it's got the salt on it. Normally this thing doesn't see any bad weather. That's a pretty nice car when it's all cleaned up, but again, I'll get the body, that'll get addressed. Maybe I'll wait till after she gets her license, but again, it's in pretty good shape. Transmission shift's nice. Could probably use a rebuild. I got a clutch drum, seems leaky. It's not horrible. Most people probably wouldn't notice it. The sun shells got that normal clunk when they start to spread apart or wear. Motor runs great, doesn't knock, doesn't smoke. 107,000 miles. I mean, you can't knock it. It's got plenty of power. You know, it's not the fastest thing on the road, but it gets up and goes. It's fun to drive. It's comfortable, handles well. I like it. I'll probably never part with it. It's got the typical HVAC systems problems with these Panther cars. The purge on the coolant system. I've had the heating system airlocked. Right now, I believe it's the blend door actuator that's bad. And I'm probably going to put a heater core in it. I'll get to that. I'm kind of just doing a walk around here of what's wrong with the car. The other thing is I had a bent axle. It's a Dorman replacement axle. I'll get to that. I guess that's kind of it. It needs a window regulator. Needs a door lock actuator on the driver's side. I've only had those parts sitting on my shelf now for, I don't know, they're in there somewhere. Probably 6-7 years. We'll do it now. The bent axle. So real quick, I hit a curb super hard. That's an understatement. I waylaid it. You know, it just, how the frame wasn't bent or anything, and it's not. It had everything measured. I'll never know. So I'm not going to knock the Dorman axle. I know everybody likes to say, oh, they bend easy, this, that, the other thing. I don't agree with that. With the hit it took, for what they cost, I think it held up pretty good. And I bought the exact same Dorman axle to replace that bent one. How that one ended up in there, I bought a parts Marauder. My rims couldn't be fixed from the curb hit. I had a place in Scranton, PA, check them out. They're great at fixing aluminum rims. The front one, they thought maybe, but they kind of left me the impression it wasn't worth it. And the rear one almost had a chunk taken out of it. They said they wouldn't even touch it. So I was fortunate enough, I had a parts Marauder, which was great. It had a rear end in it, which is this rear end now, which is the rear end in this car now. Why I originally put the Dorman axle in was it was typical of these cars. They're heavy. It's only a 28 spline axle. Wiped out the bearing, the seal, leaked the gear oil out. I didn't get to it quick enough. I mean, there was a lot of heat damage to the spider gears, the bearings. There was a lot of play in the differential. I don't know how it didn't fall apart. But this rear end was great. The only issue it had was it had one of those bearing saver kits or whatever from Moog or whoever makes them. I don't know if it's Moog or Timken or I just don't remember precision. Where it moves the bearing and the seal to a surface on the axle that's not damaged. I didn't like that. So I took it out, put my Dorman axle in. I did look at it. I don't have any way of measuring it or anything else. Eyeballing it, I guess I looked at it and it seemed fine. Well, it wasn't. Almost immediately, and this was probably almost 2 years ago, I could hear a squealing coming from the, not even a squeal, like a squeak, but it was mild. And it didn't concern me at the time. Then the squeal kind of went away. Back out of my driveway, take the parking brake off, I'd hear a clunk. All right, so I got a little more concerned. Then the ABS light would come on intermittently. So I knew I had an issue here, but what finally solidified that in my mind is I was following the car one day. I was driving my wife's truck, and she was driving this, and I could see the wheel was wobbling back and forth. Like, okay, well, that makes sense. All right, well, that was almost a year ago, and I still did nothing about it. Now, my daughter has the car, well, at least learning how to drive. We had new tires put on it. It was going to get inspected. And I thought, well, check it out quick and we'll see, we'll just put I bought it the new axle, we'll shove the new axle and we'll be good to go. Well, at this point, I don't think it was past inspection because of what that bent axle did to the brakes. So to start with, I'm going to put a little wear into the parking brake. You can see when it hit that wobble with the rotor coming out this way, put a little wear on it. I'm not going to change it. These things are fairly cheap, but they're brand new and it's only the parking brake. It impregnated some metal in there and the parking brakes still work. The biggest issue with the rotor, it was going wobbling like this, it was moving the caliper back and forth too. Hence, moving the brake pads, which ride here and here. The flanges on the brake pads right here and here, moving them back and forth, and that cut a groove into that. There's no fixing that. I guess you could weld it. I'm not a good welder. I won't call myself a welder. That's an insult to everyone who can weld. And I can make metal stick together. That's about it. This isn't worth doing that too. I guess you have to heat them up or something. Somebody was telling me how. They said it's not worth it, just buy the part. So that's the bearing and seal the Norman axle comes with. And it comes with studs, lugs, exciter ring, tone ring, again, whatever Ford calls it. Here's why I don't think it would have passed. The flanges on the brake pad. This is the one that goes in the piston, so this wouldn't have come out. So wipe that out. I don't have the other one. I must have tossed it already. The other one with the flange, whatever you'd call it. I'm sure there's a technical term. The one that rides on the inside was way worse, even though it's not as bad here. This sits here and this was walking back and forth, and that's what caused that problem. I mean, that's a lot of play. Normally these things they're tight in there. They ride on these stainless steel liners. You put those on and lube them. It wore through that, of course, and then into the metal. So I got to use one on eBay for 65 bucks. Shipped from California. Total 65 bucks. That was Sunday. It's Friday here in Pennsylvania. It'll be here today or tomorrow. And that's an easy fix. Put that on. I'm going to take one more good look at the caliper. I don't think there's any issues with it. The rotor seems fine. If there is, I'm just going to go down to Advanced Auto and buy one. They're a dime a dozen. They're no different than the Grand Marquis or the Crown Vics or you know, they're just all, there's nothing unique there. At least I don't think so. So that'll be a quick fix once the part comes. You can still buy them if you have a similar issue. I don't think this is a common problem, but new, they're about 78 bucks. You can get them anywhere. You get them at the Ford dealer. Having it shipped's probably another 15 or 25. It's over 4 pounds. I think USPS it makes a priority mail automatically. But anyway, you can get them. But 65 bucks was a steal, so I'm glad I found that. All right, now back to the HVAC system. I've had the typical problem with these that these Crown Vic Grand Marquis Marauders have. I don't know what other Ford vehicles, maybe the Mustangs, because this, I think it's the same motor that was in a Mach 1 and similar to the Cobra. The Cobra was supercharged, I believe, with a steel crank. This has an iron crank, and I think the Mach 1s might even have a steel crank with the 5 or 6 speed cars, but that's doesn't really matter for this. But it's this crossover tube. I think that is what the issue is. It's got O-rings on it. I'm going to replace them now. I've had it where it did the typical problem where my car basically overheated but wouldn't blow heat. And it's very simple to purge. You put the car up at a upward angle, turn the heat on high, take this cap off here. There's 1,000 videos on how to do it, so I'm not going to get into the details or even show you how to do it and then purge it. Find one on YouTube. They're a dime a dozen. I've had that happen. No problems after that. Recently, I had the same thing happen with the heat. It was only blowing cold. So I purged it again, and it improved it a little. But the problem I have is feast or famine with the heat. It could be on 74 degrees going down the highway, it's blowing cold. Turn to 75, you're dying in here with the windows down. So from what I understand, that is the blend door actuator is the problem. When they go completely, normally you get all heat or all cold. People in the summer, I have my AC on, it's blowing heat. People in the winter, it's blowing cold. So there's a simple way to do it. There's a lot of videos on that, so I wouldn't make one. That's the reason I'm going to do mine different. Take the airbag of the glove box out, and you can reach the actuator, which is down, I guess, well under the radio, well in the back here. It's very hard to get at, but people came up with a pretty good shortcut to do it, and I don't have a problem with it. I was going to do it that way, but my daughter and I work on this stuff, so she's an excellent mechanic for a 16-year-old. The kid she's going to be really good one day. Anyway, they do a thing where I guess it's hard to get these back bolts, and they break the edge off so you can kind of slide it in. You don't have to take the bolts out all the way. And I have no problem. I would do that. I'm not knocking it in any way, believe me. But I chose to tear the whole dash out and do it the hard way. I'm not even going to look at the service manual. I'm just going to wing it unless I get stuck. So that's how I'm going to do this. And I'm going to put a heater core in it too. And that won't be here till tomorrow. But I can imagine it's going to be a pretty good job, a pretty big job taking this dash out. But that's just how I'm going to do it. And I think that'll correct my problems. I'm going to change the cabin air temperature sensor while I'm in there. It was cheap. I just might as well replace it. The only other issue with the car, just to get it to 100% for my daughter, the mirror, I was trying to push it in because down here in the town or city or whatever, parallel park, you know, your mirror taken off. So I went to knock it in, and all I did was pull it off the stud. I was going to epoxy it, because it's the original mirror and it's a Ford part. But I have an aftermarket one that's really good, and I didn't want to use it. I tried selling it on eBay, nobody would buy it, so I might just go put that one on. It also needs a window regulator, door lock actuator. Look, it didn't make a liar out of me that time. I've had those two parts sitting over there on my shelf for about 6 or 7 years. They're finally going to go in the car. The other thing is the power window switch on that side. I've been driving these in Crown Vics, what I do for a living. Not these actually, but this body style for 20 years, and they all do it. The window's cracked and it's raining. The water drips right in on the switch. If your switches go bad, don't buy new ones. These are expensive. Just take it out, pull the switch apart, clean the contacts, put a little electric grease in there. They'll work perfect. I did that to this one probably 8 years ago, and it's been fine ever since, and I'm sure that's all. Does the same thing on that door. The water just, if it drips in, that's right where it comes into. Even when you open or close the door, it's just the spot where it comes in. I guess if you put rain guards on it, might prevent it, but I just never put them on this. And that's pretty much it. I think it'll surely pass inspection. This car is in really good shape. Just, again, it's just dirty right now. I bought the only other thing with the cooling system, and I got this from another YouTube site, powerstrokehelp.com. He said any of these cars, replace that overflow cap. They'll let air into your system. They're cheap, just replace them. So I bought one to replace it. I think that'll about do it. I'm not going to get too in-depth with videos on this car. These 8.8 rear ends there's millions of them out there and tons of videos on how to work on them and do probably everything to them, including what I'm doing right now. I'm sure my issue is not unique. So I might do a quick video on it just to do it. The dash, that's a little different. I couldn't find any about taking the whole dash out. So I'm going to do one on that. But the rest of these cars are just, there's so many videos on how to do stuff. I don't think I'm going to spend too much time. Maybe I'll do that lock actuator and whatever else. But that's just a heads up. If you're interested and want to see me fix it or screw it up, I guess check it out. Normally I've got side-by-sides and quads in here I'm working on. And none of them are coming in here today. Usually it's Can-Ams. I own a Can-Am and my buddies have Can-Ams and they're always broke. And I have a lot of videos to upload about that, but I'm just kind of new to this and I only use my iPhone, so I have to do some editing, and I have an app for it. We'll see how that goes. And believe it or not, the only thing sitting out there to be worked on now are 2 Yamahas, and that's kind of rare, but I'll do a video on them too. One's got a Rhino, first gen. It's got some kind of rear end issue making noise, so I'm going to take the rear end apart in it or whatever. There's a Polaris sitting out there. The motor's at the machine shop getting done, and there's a brand new Wolverine that my buddy Jeff, Yamaha should hire him, because what he's done to this thing, you would not believe. It's only a year and a couple months old, but he was putting brakes on it and he stripped out one of the bolts that the pads ride on. So I might do a video on that, because I think I have an easy fix for getting the bolt out. But again, that's just kind of a heads up of the videos I'm going to do. So if they help someone out, good. If they make you laugh, great. If they're boring, I guess don't watch them. But that's where we're at. Thanks for watching.